is a villain? Is he a villain? Is she a villain? What about that guy? He seems villainous. Let's check. What is the definition of a villain? A bad person who harms other people or breaks the law. Well, that was informative. Anyway, a big discussion when it comes to villains in media, or in general, is the question of nature versus nurture. Whether said villain was born a villain, nature, or were made a villain through their environment, nurture. And this is what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to bring up 3 different villains and discuss whether I believe they were created through nature or nurture. According to an article by Psychological Today, the expression nature versus nurture describes the question of how much a person's characteristics are formed by either nature or nurture. Nature means innate biological factors, namely genetics, while nurture can refer to upbringing or life experience more generally. So which villains fall in which category? First up, we have Darth Sidious, aka Chancellor Palpatine, aka Sheev Palpatine. Great name, by the way. From the Star Wars franchise. Now, throughout all the movies, Palpatine is shown as a devious, vicious, evil, cackling, and absolutely villainous character. He's pretty much shown as the embodiment of evil. Star Wars characters are interesting, as there is a little thing in this universe called the Force. Whoa. Now, the Force has 2 sides to it. We have the light side and the dark side. I wonder which is which. The light side obviously representing the good, healing, peaceful, and nice side of nature, and the dark side, surprisingly, representing the bad, evil, damaging, and rageful side of nature. And according to Yoda himself, the Force resides in every living organism.
You must feel the Force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship.
Every being has both sides of the Force in them, the dark and the light, but you can tap into them in different capacities. You can have a little bit of both. As said, I think we clearly know which side Palpatine really likes. I mean, he's really into it. He just went straight into the deep end of the dark side and never came back. Sidious fully embraced the dark side nature in him. All he wants is power, and he will do anything to get it. Killing his master, manipulating and corrupting the main character into his little underling ever since he was a child. And then taking over an entire republic and making an army for that republic, then making another one for the opponents, just so they can battle, so that he gets emergency power over said republic and then wiping both sides out and turning it into an empire. I feel like it's pretty safe to say that Darth Sidious really tapped into his evil and villainous nature. Next up, we have the wonderful character of Megamind from Megamind. So, quick synopsis of Megamind. He is the most brilliant supervillain the world has known, but also the least successful. He is thwarted time and time again by his nemesis, the heroic Metro Man, the man who throughout Megamind's entire life upstaged him. Megamind is a clear example of a villain created through nurture. His entire childhood was surrounded by unfortunate circumstances, exclusions, and, well, crime. First thing we see happen to him in the movie is his home planet being exploded. His parents sending him off into space and then dying. On his way to Earth, he was about to crash into a lovely and caring family's home, but was pushed away by Metro Man and landed in prison where the inmates then raised him. Certainly seems like a great and safe environment for a practically newborn. He was later released, I guess, and put into school, together with Metro Man, who everyone liked. And since he, unlike Metro Man, didn't resemble a human, with his big head and blue skin or whatever, he was made an outcast, bullied and excluded. He noticed that whatever he did, nobody accepted him, or even gave him a chance. So, to survive, he turned evil. However, we know that innately he isn't necessarily a bad person. Throughout the movie, we see him turning from evil and eventually even becoming the hero of Metro City. Metro City? Metro City. Whatever. He became a villain because he was raised a villain. He didn't get a very good education, since we constantly see him mispronouncing things. A child's education is a big part of a child's life, where they learn good versus evil. If it weren't for Metroman taking his spot in the beginning of the movie, and if he weren't looked at differently by people because of his appearance, he might have, possibly, potentially, used his inventions for good and maybe became a hero. Now, lastly, we have Mr. Hyde, from the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, Mr. Hyde is an interesting case. Or should I say, strange case. Anyway, in the story, Mr. Hyde is the secret second personality of the kind, intelligent and well-respected scientist, Dr. Jekyll, who was released into the wild by a mysterious drink he created in his lab. Mr. Hyde is the evil alter ego of Dr. Jekyll, and as he himself puts it, it is the evil side of his nature. Mr. Hyde is the embodiment of unfulfilled desires and experiences Jekyll has to forego to be a reputable member of society. So unlike Sidious, who is just this maniacal, unforgivable, evil entity, Jekyll has tried to be a formidable and acceptable person in society. He tries to be what he was nurtured to become. He tries to be good, but his nature wants to creep out. Mr. Hyde comes to dominate Dr. Jekyll because he is naturally or biologically inclined towards evil. The main theme of the novel, according to BBC Bite Size, is the duality of human nature. It's the idea that every human being has good and evil within them. It tries to show you that it's the decision that you make and how you behave that's important. And even if we have this nature to be evil inside of us, it is ultimately the choice you make that matters. Unlike Megamind, who had a kind heart but was nurtured into being a villain through the environment he grew up in, Dr. Jekyll instead let his nature take over after him being nurtured into a kind and well-respected person. There are plenty of villains out there with plenty of different ways to become villains, and some later not even being villains. I'm looking at you, Megamind. Some really taking nature by its neck and becoming straight up villains. Some being raised into villainy but ultimately it not being their calling at all. And others who were nurtured to be good and kind, but eventually being overtaken by their own nature and not being able to fight it any longer. So for our final tally, we have Darth Sidious, nature, Megamind, nurture, and Mr. Hyde, nature. Thanks for watching.